your device directly from the murders of Crow's Nest somewhere in a tree in Southern California. It's the Hollywood Horror Nerds, your number one source for news, speculation, and discussion exclusively for Universal Studios Hollywood's Halloween Horror Nights. And now to your hosts, Undead Ed and the Lord of the Crows, Alvar Crow.
Welcome back, everyone.
Hey, welcome to the latest episode of the Hollywood Horror Nerds. I don't think it's been too long since you've heard from us, but we're happy to be back.
Yes, and I think from last episode we left off saying that we were going to go to Midsummer Scream.
And we did. So this was our first year attending Midsummer Scream in Long Beach. It's something I've read about before. And now that we have this podcast, I felt it was important for us to actually go if we're going to cover the news.
Yeah, it was a fun event. I remember we got tickets from a previous event called
The
Spooky
Swap Meet, which we talked about in episode 4.
Something like that.
So it happens in April or March. And if you go, you can get a discounted ticket, which is what we did. We got a discounted weekend ticket, so it was good for all weekend. We didn't go on Friday, but we were there all Saturday and all Sunday.
Including Friday night's costume party.
Yes, that was not as good.
It was something.
It was all the nerds from high school get put in a big room, and then there's a DJ, and they don't really know what to do.
You're not wrong, but hopefully it gets better. Yeah. It gets better.
Let's just talk. So we're going to go through a lot today. We're going to talk about a little bit about Midsummer Scream just as an event. Then we're going to talk about all the different announcements we saw, primarily from Horror Nights. We're also going to talk a little bit about Fright Fest, because that was the big surprise for us coming out of the event, was how exciting that panel actually was. So it looks like we're setting up for a bit of a clash this fall of what's going to be the premiere event, because it looks like, not to spoil too much of what we're going to talk about, but maybe not such a great year for Horror Nights this year. And it looks like Six Flags is really trying to take that crown.
Six Flags is really working for that, but don't disqualify Knott's Berry Farm either. They're having their own thing. Knott's
Berry Farm is always solid. The thing with Knott's is they do not really go in for the IP attractions. That's what really gets me excited for these things.
The IPs do make it fun. I will give you that.
Yeah. So let's just talk a little bit first about Midsummer Scream. So it's at the Long Beach Convention Center, like we said. They said parking would be hard. It wasn't that bad.
No, I would say the hardest part about parking was the lines to get into the parking zones.
Yeah, we didn't really have a big problem with it. So you get there. It was a fun event. I mean, there's a ton of vendors. So, I mean, that was a big part of the event, which is kind of walking the show floor and seeing who's selling. So it's one part all these professional haunts hyping up their big fall event. So Universal's there, Knott's Berry Farm is there, the Queen Mary Dark Harbor is there, Six Flags is there.
Lionsgate was there.
That was a little everything, yeah. So anyone who's going to be having a big haunt event in the fall is there with a little booth. I mean, actually, rather sizable booths. And they usually have some of their scare actors are on display and the costumes they're going to be wearing, just trying to get you hyped up to go to their event, which was fun. Yeah. But it also functions a bit like a trade show for people who do more amateur local haunts.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of booths that were like, I can help you do makeup, or you can see me live spray painting, body painting someone, and then you can buy my services for your event. Or I'm selling, really intense masks. Or I saw people who are just I'm a consultant, so you'll pay me, I'll come to your haunt, and I'll help you make it better. There was one that was cool. I think we actually got their business card that was how to do your own ghost tour, how to set up a really cool ghost tour. That was a fun one. And so that's about half of it. And the other half then is people selling stuff. So it's someone who I make horror themed artwork, or I make horror t-shirts, or whatever else it was. Everything. I saw horror sugar cookies at one point.
Oh, those look delicious. I can't eat them right now because I'm keto.
But they were very non-keto.
That was not keto, but I did have their keto coffee.
There were two separate horror coffee places in LA. Apparently, they were both there.
Yeah, and with all this spookiness going around, there were some Ghostbusters there. Who are you gonna call when it's bad? The Scooby-Doo gang.
Yeah, they did. They had the Los Angeles Ghostbusters had a little presentation, and they did have a separate area called the Hall of Shadows, and they had a few walkthrough attractions there. We did 2 of them because the lines were very long and the attractions were very short. So we did, like my friend Alvar Crow mentioned, they had a Scooby-Doo one. And I was really excited for this one.
Yeah.
Because it was like, they're never going to do Scooby-Doo at Horror Nights. It's not gory enough.
They're hitting right into nostalgia.
But finally, it'll be a short Scooby-Doo walkthrough. Like, you're going to go in, maybe you'll see the creeper, or like the guy with the sea diver, or the robot, just some iconic Scooby-Doo monsters. And then Fred or someone will pop out at you and say something goofy, and then you're done. But I was like, that's really cool, because finally it'll be all painted on the inside. It'll look like you're on the set. I was really excited for it.
Yeah.
And then you go inside, and there's like, you go through like 3 rooms, and none of it, the last room does. So the last room we went through was Scooby-Doo-esque, where it was like that hallway, where they open one door, and it's like, oh no, and then they run out into another door, and they, that classic kind of chase sequence. It did look like that.
Where they go from one door and exit out a different door.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they also had a Scooby-Doo character kind of in that area where a guy came out and he was like an Indian guy, kind of heavy set, and he was dressed up like Daphne. So it was a bit of a laugh, like, oh, that's funny, because it's not what you expect.
It was Drag-Me.
It was drag Daphne. But not really like you're supposed to even think she's one. Like, very clearly this is a dude dressing like Daphne.
It was funny, but
it did make me
spooky.
laugh, but it wasn't really what I would rather have seen Daphne
or Scooby
or Fred or Shaggy or Velma.
Yeah.
And the rest of it, I don't think there were any. You just went through like 2 or 3 rooms with nothing in them.
No, there was one before Daphne. There was one scare actor who did a quick boo and then dipped.
Yeah, and he wasn't a Scooby-Doo character at all. So the Scooby-Doo was very underutilized to the point where it was not even Scooby-Doo themed, and that really sucked. It was not a short wait for that either.
It was a long wait.
People wanted that. It's something I wanted for a long time. I thought it would be really fun, and it was really bad.
We had gone on Saturday, but because the line was so long, we had to wait until Sunday, and it was like one of the first things we did on Sunday.
No, we did Lionsgate on Sunday. Scooby we did like end of the day on Saturday.
Oh, that's right. We did end of day Saturday.
Right.
Lionsgate was even longer.
Lionsgate was better.
Yeah.
So that was the other one we did. There were a few others we didn't do because we did have a limited amount of time and these lines were long. And we wanted to go see some panels and stuff.
Yeah.
The Lionsgate one was more like a traditional walkthrough, like what we would expect from something like Horror Nights. Production value was much higher. It had the elements you would want to see. They had definitely a big Saw area and a big Strangers area. There was one ghost thing that we also saw strangely popped up late in the convention. So I think he was just like what's the word? A mascot.
Okay, yeah.
He was a bit like their little ghost mascot because I thought maybe he looked like something from the Frighteners.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
But it turned out the Frighteners wasn't Lionsgate. So I was briefly excited there was a Frighteners element, but it didn't last. There was a big Strangers element in there. I didn't recognize the other. Oh, there was My Bloody Valentine. That was a cool throwback. The other ones I didn't really recognize. But that was a better one.
Yeah. The Strangers was very obvious that all the
because they're promoting the movie of that too.
Yeah. And the other ones was a little bit more subtle. And
the Saw one was obvious.
Yeah,
right when you walked
of
in,
course. Yeah, you see him.
And that franchise is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year.
Wow, that's right. Saw is turning 20.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more about how they're going to be celebrating that at one of these events when we get to them. Anything else from the Hall of Shadows? We only really did those two. They had a few things you could take pictures with. They had the Mystery Machine was pretty good. That was a good picture.
We took a picture with that. We also, this area was very dark and full of fog machine.
That was fun. That was fun. It was it got you really in that Halloween haunt spirit.
Yes.
Where you get that fog machine smell, and you're just crammed in a line with a ton of people.
Yeah.
What about the vendors? Do you have anything to say about the vendor hall?
Again, I love my coffee. I love the 2 vendors for the coffee. The first vendor, they sold me pumpkin spice cold brew, and that was delicious. Mm-hmm. Because I haven't had pumpkin. And I believe
this was Horror Vibes Coffee in LA.
I believe it was. It was just great to taste pumpkin flavored fall flavors basically.
Yeah.
In summer.
I mean, it really felt that this was like the kickoff to the Halloween season, even though it's still summer. But it is August now, so we're getting closer. And these haunts are all opening the end of this month, so it's not far away now.
Yeah, everyone forgets that we're now in August. September is the next month.
Yeah.
And
Because September's so hot.
yeah, every time I told people when they asked me where are you going this weekend, I said Halloween convention. They're like, in July. I was like, yes, it can't happen in October because it's already Halloween. Yeah. But it was a great time, a great experience. We went to several different panels.
Well, I will say, before we move on from the vendors, 2 points. First of all, the prices were definitely not good.
They were convention
We didn't buy any.
prices.
They were conventions. I remember when we went to the summer swap meet, I was surprised by the prices were actually really good. I got like a lot of stuff, and I felt it was all a good bargain. That was not the case at the actual convention. But I also wasn't really planning on buying anything, so I felt like we were paying to get in. So I felt like that was enough.
No, we paid for the weekend tickets and the costume one separate. It wasn't part of it.
I bought a pretzel.
And then we had to pay for parking too, which was
Yes.
about $20 per day.
Right. So it was enough. And then none of the stuff really was like, this is like a must get item that I saw.
And then you have to forget, we also had to get lunch and dinner. And it was not cheap. And there was long lines there too.
Yeah. Okay, so we can talk about the panels.
We talk about the vendors there.
There were a lot of panels. So again, there was a lot that if you actually do your own home haunt, you should definitely go to this, because there were a lot of panels based around that, of how to elevate that experience or how to make better props. But you also do have to kind of make a consideration of like, do I want to do panels or do I want to spend more time taking out these vendors on the show floor? Because these panels all last about an hour. You have to line up early to get a decent seat for most of them.
Or just a seat.
Some of the smaller ones, you can just kind of roll in when it starts and you'll be fine. But the bigger ones, like anything that's going to be in the grand ballroom or anything that's going to be like a show, you cannot get into. There was one that we wanted to go to, and we showed up. And we weren't that late. We were there maybe half an hour before we were supposed to start, and the line had backed up so much. I was like, we're not even going to get in.
No,
there's no point.
There was no point.
We went to Chili's.
Yeah.
But we went to another one. The one we went to right before that one had extra room, so it wasn't that well attended. So it's just, I think it's just, you have to judge based on like, okay, there's a lot of like horror nerds here, like hardcore nerds. So use that to evaluate, will this be a crowded panel or a not crowded panel? And judge accordingly.
Yeah, because in one of the panels, we showed up like 5 minutes or under before it started, and then
yeah, we had great seats. We were like front row. Well, we weren't, because that would have been awkward. Or they'd have been too close. But we were like second row.
If we wanted to, we
could have sat there. We could have sat right next to the guy who was
the speaker
from Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite. He was one of the presidents. We could have sat like right next to him if we wanted to.
Yeah, but that was fun. The one that ruined it for me was on Saturday when we wanted to go see the Elvira show.
Yeah, this was supposed to be kind of the kickoff panel. It was the first panel of the day. And actually, we prioritized this over other panels that were occurring at similar times. But we said, okay, this is like the first panel. You got to see Elvira. She's 72. She won't be doing these conventions for too much longer.
Unfortunately.
And she doesn't look 72.
She does not.
She just, when she hit like 43, she was like, I'm done. I will remain this age my whole life. And she's done a very good job with that. So
whoever she's working with, I need their number.
And we lined up early for that. We figured this is kind of, was it the first? I think it was the first. It was the first panel of the day. And, it's Elvira. We figured it'd be popular. So we lined up early. We lined up not an hour early, but almost
30 minutes, 45.
More than 30, like 45 minutes early. So we had a good spot in line.
Yeah.
And we were just general admission. So just touching briefly on, if you want to go next year, they have an upgrade you can buy. I think it's called the Gold Bat Pass.
Yes.
And you get a special line to get into the panel. So you don't have to line up as early to get a good seat, because the Gold Bat Pass line always goes in first.
It's basically the Express Pass.
Right. It's an Express Pass for panels. You also get an Express Pass for all the walkthrough attractions in the Hall of Shadows. But you don't get a front of the line pass for all the booths. Like, I know like the Universal Experience booth had a big line, and the Gold Bat Pass did not help you there. You still have to line up for that. In my estimation, I don't think it would have been worth it.
No.
Because if you just plan your day out, if you want to go to like every panel and you want a good seat, in that case, maybe it's worth it. Or if you are just rich and you don't care, at that point, I guess it's worth it too. And if you really want a good seat at the Horror Nights panel, which we'll talk about when we get to it, because that one is beyond crowded to get into. Otherwise, I wouldn't really recommend it. So anyways, we're in line for the Elvira panel, and maybe 15 minutes before it starts, a fire alarm starts going off.
And no one did anything. Everyone just stayed in line.
Yeah, we're not going to get out of line. First of all, we know there's no fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I feel like I react more to the crowd yelling and screaming and running away and being on fire in a fire than just the fire alarm. The fire alarm doesn't faze me.
I knew we weren't in trouble because I could see some of the staff had the walkie-talkies and they looked calm.
Yeah, no one seemed concerned.
Yeah.
So we weren't concerned either. Until you get into the ballroom where the panel is actually going to be held, and now the siren is like 20 times as loud.
Yeah, because it was like surrounding the entire ballroom in an enclosed space.
Yeah, and it was very loud. So that went on for
over an hour.
Like an hour. It was about an hour of a fire alarm, and they ended up canceling the panel. They started delaying it. They would come up and tell us, oh, we're just going to get it started as soon as the fire alarm is off. And, oh, the fire marshal's here, so it'll get off soon. And it never got turned off.
No.
So eventually they canceled the panel.
They didn't cancel it per se. They moved it to the end.
They moved it to the end of the day.
Yeah, end of day. So instead of being the opening act, Elvira was the closing.
Which did annoy me because there were other panels that were supposed to be at that 4 to 5 o'clock time slot that I wanted to go to, and now you had to choose. And also we wasted like an hour of time.
More than an hour.
And there was no compensation. There should have been something. We should have gotten cut the line pass if you were there waiting.
Or an Elvira free autograph and photo.
That would have been good. That's an $80 value, by the way.
Yeah, and cash is queen. She only took cash.
It was funny because most people only took card, but Elvira only took cash.
No taxes, baby.
She is dodging those taxes. Just like she's dodging her age.
Oh, gosh, she's dodging the Reaper.
So anyway, we'll come back to that when we actually went to it. So we were able then to duck into the Six Flags Fright Fest Extreme panel. And this is where this episode will actually get interesting. It's been a lot of rambling leading up to this point. So if you skipped ahead to 16 minutes, very wise.
Yeah.
So tell us about Fright Fest Extreme. What did we learn?
We learned quite a bit, actually. They're going to have about 11 houses this year.
11 houses. That's the most of any professional haunt in Southern California.
Yeah, and one of
their...
their...
Quite a bit, actually. I think Horror Nights is like 7 or 8, maybe like to 9.
Yes, about
I don't
9.
think it's ever gone above 9.
No, and their big IP is going to be Stranger Things.
They have a few big IPs.
Yeah, but the one who was talking at the panel was Stranger Things.
That was Trick or Treat.
Oh, that's right. It was
okay.
Trick or Treat.
So they brought... We'll go in order of how they presented their own presentation. I thought it was a good presentation.
Yes.
So Stranger Things, I believe, was up first. And it seemed this was going to be focused mostly on Stranger Things Season 3.
No. It's Stranger Things Universe.
Stranger Things Universe.
Yes.
Now, we have seen Stranger Things at Horror Nights several times. We've seen all 3 seasons. And
4. They had 4 seasons.
Were there 4 seasons?
Yeah.
Good Lord. That's too many. But what they kept mentioning... They mentioned this like 3 or 4 times during the presentation. Is you're going to see scenes that you've never seen in this kind of environment before. And I thought back to the episode we did where we were recapping last year's event, and we mentioned it was so strange that they have this big Stranger Things maze at Horror Nights, and they never do Eddie Munchin on top of the trailer playing Metallica to fight the things, because that was what everyone wanted. There was a lot of discussion online, like, why wasn't this there? This was the scene we all wanted to see, and they didn't do it. So I texted my friend Alvaro here during the panel, was like, they're throwing so much shade, and they're definitely going to have that scene. Like, this is directly targeted at Horror Nights. Like, we know Horror Nights screwed it up. Yeah. We're going to give you what you actually want. That's the vibe I got from them.
No, they were very explicit. Basically, there was the Horror Nights shade was so explicit. But
I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't know the Stranger Things Season 2 maze at Horror Nights was also not well received. Did I go to that one with you, or was it the year that I went with
This is
someone
the
else?
year you went without me. How dare you?
Yeah, tragic. And that one, I liked it fine, but I know it wasn't a very well received maze, so they may try to bring some scenes from Season 2 that got skipped over into it as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they seem to be focusing a lot on scenes you haven't seen in this type of environment, or scenes you haven't seen in general. For in the movies that they're based on the IPs.
Yeah. I mean, in general, this really set the tone that Six Flags is really coming to play this year. So previous years, this event has been not even a separate ticket. It's you show up at Six Flags and you pay a little extra and you get a wristband that lets you go in the mazes. This is going to be their first year they're doing a separate ticketed event. They've also raised the price quite a bit from what I've read online. We've never been to this before.
No.
We've never been to Six because it's always been. I mean, what I've heard online has been that it's not good. It's a bit of a drive because I'm in Orange County and it's all the way like past LA, so it's not easy to get out
like
there.
Like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah, it's not short. And then I got to drive back at the end of the night. But they really drew some of these IPs and it felt like they were going to deliver. So Stranger Things really got. I mean, even when you went in, it felt like okay, this is almost like the first year we're doing this. Where they had this really funny video where if you remember those iconic Six Flags commercials from the 90s.
Oh, God.
The bald turtle guy comes out, he does the iconic dance. They had him, not like it there, but they had a commercial where he was doing the dance and he gets run over by a bus.
That was
and then
hilarious.
He starts going back as a zombie. It was really strong. And it really, I mean, that was the vibe I got. Was like, we're here, get used to it.
Yeah. Be prepared to get scared.
Yeah, like we're coming for the king.
Yeah, they're really trying to topple Universal Horror Nights.
You could really feel that during this presentation. Like, we're really coming for it this year.
And one thing I did like about them was their pricing for their tickets. Even though, yes, the pricing has gone up, it's still cheaper than Universal Studios.
It is. It's significantly cheaper, even for the high-level pass.
And another extra thing is their prices don't change based on the day you go.
You're right. That's interesting to me that it's just one consistent price.
Yeah. For general admission, it's $99, and for the express pass, it's only $150. So you're paying $51 more for the express pass. It almost seems worth it. Except, since the express pass is so attainable, it might just become the new general admissions.
Well, you have to consider there also are 11 things to walk through.
Yes.
So that's 11 lines to get through. So we don't really know what their crowd level will be like. If it's going to be necessary or not. But in my mind, for just that 55 extra, and including what you're saying, because it is cheaper, it is more attainable. I think more people will get it. I do feel like this might be one where you're going to want to spend the extra $50.
And don't forget, they're not just having these houses, but they're also having 9 scare zones.
And beyond just this, I mean, they are. That's a ton of scare zones.
Yeah.
And some of them looked really cool. The one that jumped out to me, we took a picture with one of the scare actors for this one at their booth downstairs, was an Oz scare zone.
Yeah, Underworlds of Oz.
That looked really cool. That's a cool idea too, like the creepy, demented Oz. I feel like you see creepy, demented Alice in Wonderland. I know
Alice in the Borderlands, I believe.
Was that? There was a video game, Alice Madness Returns. The American McGee's Alice was big. And it's usually fun, and they make Alice look all hot, and maybe we'll see Hot Dorothy at this one. That'd be fun. But I haven't seen Oz. Oz, I feel like you don't see as much in that way. There was a terrifying movie in the 90s called Return to Oz that for some reason they marketed towards children, and I watched it like 3 times, and it scared the hell out of me. So I was excited for that. The scare zones seemed cool. The other one that I can remember was the 3 new ones, and it felt like it looks okay. So a lot of this is returning. And then that seemed like it's just, okay, it's going to be your classic Fright Fest. But then this Fright Fest Extreme is going to be the new stuff. That's going to be really good. So the Oz was cool. There was a Dia de los Muertos zone.
Plaza de la Muerte.
Which they also do at Universal. So it'll be interesting to see a comparison between those. It seemed the Universal one is themed more towards like just buy food. This is more of like an actual scare zone.
The one at Universal is more of Day of the Dead, if anything, and buy food.
Right. It's to sell you the food.
Yeah.
And this one, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be a real, like, people attacking you or just going to be a lot of people in kind of that makeup and that style.
Yeah. So let's go over the names. So for the scare zones...
Should we do all the scare zones?
Yeah, it's only 9. Okay. It's Underworlds of Oz, Plaza de la Muerte, Grimlore Ridge, City Under Siege, Nightmares, A Twisted Fantasy, Devil's Triangle, Carn of Hell, that's my favorite so far, Exile Hill, and The Dead Zone. So we're going to have quite a bit to go through with these.
Yeah, it's a lot. And especially because I'll be interested to see, because it's going to be hard to staff this many. To staff 11 houses, and how many scare zones? Like 7?
9.
That's a lot of scare actors. So they might be sparsely populated.
That's like 20 different scare things between the houses and the scare zones. I didn't think about that. However, it could also mean they're going to have quite the hiring boost, so they might...
It could be.
If this is their debut, they don't want to cheap out.
Yeah. I mean, you're in LA. There's no shortage of actors out of work who will work at this.
Especially,
if you pay them.
Do you remember last year Universal was having, when we were walking in, Universal was having the strike from the actors?
That's true.
So Six Flags might hire out all the actors that were protesting at Universal.
That's right, all the cast members.
Yeah.
I think they just call them employees at Universal. Disney calls them cast members.
Well, they're just numbers at that point. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. One of the other IPs that was talked about at Midsummer.
Hold on, before we get back to the mazes, I want to mention one more thing that's also a differentiator between Fright Fest and Universal is the actual attractions there. Six Flags is almost, I looked up this, it's almost all roller coasters. There's maybe like a dozen. It's just a lot. There's a lot of like serious roller coasters you can go on at Magic Mountain. Compared to Universal, what rides do you want to go on Horror Nights? You want to go on Harry Potter's pretty good.
The Mummy.
You want to go on the Mummy. I like Jurassic World, but people don't go on it because you get wet at night.
Yeah, don't go at night if you don't want to get cold.
Right. So it seems like also the draw of the coasters might bring more people in. Oh, don't forget
Transformers.
Transformers is okay.
It's like a coaster.
It's when you go on because there's no
line.
You're right. You wouldn't wait even 5 minutes for it.
That's their biggest thing. And also...
And all of the coasters will be operating during Fright Fest Extreme, whereas at Universal, they shut down several attractions. As the night goes on, usually even they shut down Harry Potter before too late.
And Simpsons World also got shut down, the coaster there. But however... everything seems to be on at Six Flags, and like you said, everything's geared more towards roller coasters, which was a big reason why I tend to not go to Six Flags. Because when you're tall, every beam looks like it's going to hit your head.
That's just adding to the Fright Fest. It's an important element of the Frights.
Yeah. Have you ever gone to Six Flags?
I've never been to Magic Mountain. I've been to Discovery Kingdom in Northern California.
I've been to Six Flags Magic Mountain when my first time was in middle school, and by that time I was already tall. And my first roller coaster I remember was, I believe, X2, Goliath. Goliath, because it was the biggest one, and I'd never gone to Six Flags before. And all my friends said, if you're gonna be on the first coaster, it should be the biggest one, so that every other coaster seems small in comparison.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it was the biggest one. And everything else seemed more appealing.
And from that day on, everything has seemed small to Alvaro.
Yeah. Except when the beams right across seemed to be about to hit your head. But yeah, Six Flags, fun times. The other IP that's coming to Six Flags that was also had a speaker was Trick or Treat.
We're going straight to Trick or Treat?
I think so.
Okay, we can go straight to... So this one, they brought out the director of Trick or Treat, Michael Dowdy, and that was a big moment. That was exciting because we're all horror nerds, so we actually know who he is, and we're very excited. Yeah. He also did Krampus, which if you're a regular listener, you know that Alvaro and I love Krampus. And he even teased that. He said, who wants to see Krampus next year? And that got a big cheer. So hopefully next year, more Krampus mazes. And he was, from what he presented the panel, he was very deeply involved in this maze. I thought that was interesting because he was also, they did do a trick or treat at Horror Nights.
They did it in the past. It was...
We didn't go that year. That was the year we skipped.
Yeah.
And it was a shame because that was actually a really strong year, but there were just other things we wanted to go to at that time. We only had one weekend to make it work. So...
we don't have a comparison per se, but...
what was cool about what he's bringing to Fright Fest is he's expanding what he called the trick-or-treat verse, where he pulled in, he told them, I've done these comics and these short things, so pulling characters from that to add to the maze, and then they added some original things. He said, let's show them Sam's lair. Sam's the little sackhead boy from the movie, who's the kind of the fourth storyline is about him trying to get this guy. It's good. It's good. I won't spoil too much of it. It's a really good movie. It's a great Halloween movie if you haven't seen it. So seeing new elements from those characters who are so, even though there's only been that one movie, this is such a standard for kind of the horror community. People still refer back to this movie. That's going to be really cool.
I'm excited to see a bit of the scenes that you don't see in the film. The expanded universe of it. I'm seeing how they're gonna make it all work, especially because it's not gonna be limited to Six Flags and Magic Mountain in California. Mm-hmm. Their project is to do it mostly to all their Six Flags locations. Yeah,
that was a strange concept. They talked about how they want these mazes to go viral across their parks, and I thought, you own all the parks. You decide what goes where. It's not like they're going to propagate themselves. That's not how corporate synergy works. So that element, we talked about this on the last episode, how there's certain mazes that are only coming to certain parks, and some of them are really cool. Like they're only doing zombie DC universe in Mexico City. Why? Why is that not a Magic Mountain? That's such a cool concept.
I think because they want you to get that tourism money.
Yeah, I'm not going to Mexico City for one maze.
Yeah,
it's too much. So I don't know. I think you're right. They want you to travel. No one's going to do that. No one's going to go to 6 different Six Flags to see one different maze at each one.
I don't know. If you can get some kind of souvenir saying that you went to each one, maybe that's what their draw is.
It won't happen. Okay, so the Trick or Treat looked really strong. This seems to be the one. This was the one that there was their capstone was the end. They brought their director out. He talked a lot about it. He was there for a long time, and he was obviously really excited. That got me really excited. And it got the crowd excited too.
Yeah, they had I think the director of marketing was there as well from Six Flags.
They had 3 different people from Six Flags there, and it's funny because Trick or Treat is not a big franchise in terms of like revenue. But it's big in the horror community. It kind of occupies that headspace. And it's clear that they knew that and they appreciated that, even though Conjuring and Stranger Things and Saw are bigger franchise in terms of general appeal. They knew the horror nerds want Trick or Treat, and we're going to present that as if that's our headline. I appreciated that because it really shows that they understand who their audience is.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun treat.
Or will it be a trick and it'll be really bad? Okay. So what else did they show?
They showed the Conjuring universe as well.
This one I'm excited for as well because we haven't seen Conjuring at Horror Nights. We've seen it at the WB lot. They did a little thing that we went. That was the year we skipped. We went to their WB event, and I think it's interesting because if you remember our last episode, we talked about the Insidious attraction they're doing at Universal this year. And I said Insidious is just a worse version of The Conjuring. It'll be interesting to see a comparison there. Here's the Conjuring walkthrough and here's the Insidious walkthrough, and which one is better. Because all these things do come down to execution at the end of the day.
I'm excited to see because they're not just going to focus on a particular movie. It's going to be all of them, the whole universe.
Yeah, I think they're even going to pull in La Llorona, which no one saw that movie.
I watched that movie. It was not great.
I mean, because there are a lot of really cool characters, some of these more obscure. Like, I remember I saw Annabelle Comes Home, and they introduced some really cool designs for demons in that movie, and it'll be cool to see if they can bring that out.
It'd be fun if they had an Annabelle scare actor just walking the scare zones.
I would like it. There's 2 ways. You can either find a very petite, short woman to do that, or just hire, like, a full-size person.
No,
just dressed as Annabelle.
You have all the different versions of Annabelle.
Okay.
The short one when she's a child, the middle one she's a teen, and then the adult one when she's obviously an adult.
Well, you have a Raggedy Ann Annabelle that's like the actual Annabelle in the Horror Museum.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Because if you've never looked at it, it's kind of funny. But like, there is a real Annabelle doll. Yeah. Whether or not it's possessed by the devil, I leave that to your determination. But it's just a Raggedy Ann doll.
It is which is hilarious.
We've all had them as children.
It's not scary.
It's not.
They spiced it up.
They spiced it up a lot for the movies.
Yeah.
What else was there?
It was the Conjuring universe. We just saw a quick thing about Saw. Army of the Dead.
Well, Saw I thought was cool. Let's not just pass over Saw.
Okay.
Saw, we've seen that several times at Horror Nights.
Correct.
I feel like it's always solid. And this is the 20th anniversary, and they said they want to bring in traps from all the movies.
I'm excited to see how to do the head trap.
Yeah. They just released Saw X, and that had some cool traps in it that we haven't been able to see at Horror Nights because it's a new movie, so I'm hoping we see some of those.
It'll be interesting to see how they have all the different elements of... Is it going to be based on a particular Saw, or is it going to be all the Saws?
Yeah.
Because a lot of their attractions seem to be the universe. X universe.
Right. And this is Saw 20th anniversary. So I'm hoping we'll see some throwbacks to the original Saw, which is my favorite. It doesn't have the best traps on it. It's always cool. We actually, in the Lionsgate experience, there was one room that was like the original bathroom. And you can see the guy who got fried up at the end was there. So I hope we see some of that. I'm hoping to see some of these just iconic kills we've seen in those movies represented.
I'm excited.
You can't miss. Saw's a hard one to screw up for this kind of thing.
Especially if they provide some kind of smell-o-vision for this.
Oh no. That's too much.
The other attraction that was mentioned was Army of the Dead, which was the Vegas movie of zombies.
I have not seen this one.
I have. I enjoyed it.
I remember the thing I saw from the advertising was like zombie lions, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's from Army of the Dead.
So I'm just approaching this one as just a zombie maze set in Vegas because I'm not familiar with the IP. But it's a solid zombie concept. I think it could, if they really bring out, it's like you're going through a real casino, that would be fun. They have like some slot machines and stuff going off.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fun concept.
If anyone has seen the movie, the intro is very well done. It is basically you're going through the Vegas as the zombie apocalypse is happening, but it's only in Vegas. The rest of the world is fine. So it's
just a normal weekend in Vegas, though.
Not per se, but it's gonna be exciting. I'm excited for it. I'm gonna be disappointed if they don't have Zombie Lion or the Zombie Queen.
Yeah, you gotta have Zombie Lion.
Yeah,
that was iconic.
The Zombie Queen is something else that I'm also excited for. She was a great character in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's a zombie maze.
Yeah, it's a zombie maze.
I've seen a lot of those before. But it's a different setting that we don't usually see in the zombie maze, so it brings it up a little bit. I wouldn't say this is one that's like going to get me there, but it's not one that I'm like, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, they seem to be having several zombie mazes this year at Fright Fest, because they also have another one called Condemned Forever Damned, also zombies. Truth or Dare also seems to be prompting zombies, so it seems to be a little zombie heavy.
Zombies are easy. I think probably in past years at Fright Fest, when they've had less money put behind it, they've just gone to zombies because it's super easy. You go buy like 3 or 4 prosthetics, you're good to go. Throw those on characters. They don't have to be that animated because they're zombies.
They don't have lines to remember because it's just groans.
Right. So zombies are easy.
The execution's hard.
Right. Was that it for their IPs?
I believe, let's see, Stranger Things Universe, The Conjuring, Saw, Trick or Treat, Army of the Dead.
Yeah, they had 5.
Yeah.
Those are the big 5.
I think that's...
So it's a strong lineup, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't fault it.
I'm excited. It's going to be a decision making whether we do decide to make that trip.
That is a question, because we haven't been before. Read Online has been not positive about this event in the past. So we are, before you want to commit, because we want to get the Express Pass.
Yeah,
we're Express Pass people. But before you want to commit that money, we do want to see some early reviews say, is it worth it this year? Is it not? And then I think we would probably go in October, because we're going to Horror Nights end of September.
Yeah, because the fun thing of Fright Fest, it goes all the way from September 19th to November 3rd.
Yeah, it's a big season.
Yeah, I'm excited. You have a lot of time.
Yeah, but it's definitely one to keep on your radar at the very least, because they are definitely, I mean, they talked about this, how, they kind of understood in the past it was a smaller event, and this is the year that they're really trying to push into the next level.
Their big premiere, essentially, the renaissance of Fright Fest.
Yes. It's not Fright Fest anymore, it's Fright Fest Extreme.
Okay. I think that was the big things of Midsummer that was not Horror Nights specific.
Let me turn off my phone volumes. I'll hear my text messages coming in.
Oh no! Did we not?
Yeah, that's tragic. Usually I remember.
Terrible.
We're recording this early in the morning for us.
Okay, so now we did most of Midsummer, early days. Now I think what people came here for Midsummer, the Horror Nights.
Let's talk one more thing about Midsummer. Let's talk about the Elvira panel that we did. A little bit about Knott's Berry Farm.
Oh.
Scary Farm.
Scary Farm.
Now, this is one that I've wanted to do for a long time. I don't know if this is going to be the year, because we have a lot of other things it seems that are already lined up. But, and they haven't announced a lot that's coming out for Berry Farm yet, because they have their own event later. It's in a few weeks, I think, where they have their own unveiling where they get their own people. I think it might be at the park. I don't know.
Could be.
But they did announce what they're doing for Elvira. So Elvira has been a bit of a staple at Scary Farm for
35 years.
50 years?
35.
Since the 80s?
1982 to 2017.
Yeah, she was there for a long time. And they wanted to celebrate that history. This year, they're going to have what is it? Is this a ridiculous name?
Yours cruelly, Elvira X Experience.
Right, so it'll be kind of like a clip show with the highlights of all her best events and some Elvira props. And she will be there. She will not perform. She's too old now to perform, is what she said.
She's not too old.
She doesn't want to.
She tires.
She's semi-retired. I mean, we kind of expected Elvira would show up at the Elvira panel in the whole Elvira getup, and she just showed up like, I'm Cassandra Peterson. I play a character named Elvira.
Yeah.
Which she was still fun. I saw it. It was a fun panel.
She was
very personable.
Yeah, she was very animated.
You understand why she became Elvira, because she's good. She's good at presenting.
Yeah.
Even without all the makeup and the dress and the giant beehive hair.
Yeah, it says that based on their website, it's going to be feature remastered video highlights from past Scary Farm Elvira shows. It'll be running continuously each night during the event, and I think she's going to be autographing on certain days.
3 nights. I don't know. One of them is opening night, and then 2 other kind of random nights in September and October. And they unveiled a lot of merch. The merch guy was like on point. He had a lot of energy. He was on something.
He should have been.
But whatever he was on should have been passed out because it looked fun.
You know what he was on? Elvira.
Yeah, he wanted to be on Elvira.
He was on that.
That's
Elvira
a good Elvira
train.
joke.
Yeah,
everyone wanted to be on Elvira that night.
One of her. Nope, I'm not gonna say it. Anyways, Elvira, the experience is gonna be interesting. She seems to have very fond memories of starting there and seeing people come in as teenagers, and then when they came back with their own kids.
Yes, and she said this year she wants to see the grandkids.
Exactly. And
she's been doing it so long.
I was like, whoa, that kind of really puts a perspective in the passage of time, what 35 years means to her. So it's going to be quite
it was
experience.
Fun. Also, she charged $80 for an autograph.
And cash is queen.
Yeah. And that was, we saw the girl who played Megan was only charging $40, and that was too much too. No one was at that booth.
Yeah, most people didn't want to do that, it seems, but Elvira still had a good.
She had a line. There was a lineup for Elvira. People paid those $80.
And they took a photo behind the plexiglass.
Yes, there was plexiglass between you and Elvira, which I understood. I was like, that's fair.
People get grabby.
Yeah, no, that's not cool. Don't do that. So that was a fun panel, and if you're into Scary Farm, I think that's a fun addition. Again, don't know if we're doing Scary Farm this year, maybe next year. Definitely at some point we'll go. I'll go at some point.
Yeah,
it's on my radar. But again, this is a difference between the Southern California haunts, especially for Horror Nights, and the Orlando haunts, where what really gets me excited are the IPs at the events, of being able to see a horror movie that I love brought to life, to be able to experience it in a totally new way. And Scary Farm doesn't do that. Scary Farm sometimes does. They'll throw like one in, rarely. But it's mostly their own creations.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't have the same draw for me.
Yeah, it's
So maybe not. Maybe if I get a nice bonus this year, I'll go Scary Farm. All right, so that was the end. So then we did go to their costume party. We had great costumes.
Sure.
I was Freddy. My Freddy costume was great. His Jason costume was average, but he's tall, so he suits Jason very well. So it was a nice pair.
There was a lot of short King Michaels.
There were a lot of short Michaels. A lot of Mike, a lot of Ghostface, a lot of Freddys. Not many Jasons.
No.
I think we were the only Freddy-Jason combo, too, so we got some play. Their party's not great. If you're gonna go Uber so you can drink, because it's gonna make it a lot better. We had to drive home, so we wanted to be sober. That did not help.
No, there was an actual casket there too.
That was fun.
Yeah.
They were trying to sell the casket, which was a little
funeral
strange.
Home was there.
Like there was actually a funeral home there, like as a vendor. That was a little wild.
I love that their representative was dressed as the Reaper.
Yeah.
With the casket behind them, you could take photos with them.
There were a lot of photo ops. The photo ops at the party I thought were good. They had a fun little show that was the game show that was all like in the Beetlejuice world, and it was like you were watching a game show that was as if the ghosts from Beetlejuice were all participating, and it was fun. The host was funny. The other actress was funny. I enjoyed that part. If you listen to our podcast, Midsummer Scream, do more things like that at the party. Have like 2 or 3 different things you can go see. Don't just have giant awkward dance party and overpriced drinks.
But yeah, it was. I would say Midsummer was very Beetlejuice heavy.
It was. They went on the Beetlejuice this year.
There were so many people there dressed as Beetlejuice. What was the girl's name?
Lydia Dietz.
Lydia Dietz. So there was a lot of that, and they also had a sandworm.
There were sandworms everywhere.
Yeah, there were sandworms. Several locations. I took a photo with one of the sandworms. It was great.
It was fun. I liked it.
The game
this
show
is the year of
incorporated-
Beetlejuice.
Yes,
Strangely, not
Beetlejuice
at
2 is
Horror
coming out.
Nights, which is frustrating to me, but it's what it is.
Beetlejuice 2 is coming out this year.
Beetlejuice. Don't say it a third time. So, yeah, that was cool. But I don't know. I wouldn't really recommend the party unless you are planning to drink at it heavily. That might be a skip for us next year. But
now we know.
Yes, now we know.
Now we know.
So I think now finally, 45 minutes into the episode, we finally come to Horror Nights. Or is there more that I've missed? Is there more we have to get through?
I think the only other panel that I enjoyed was the Satanic Hispanics. Because Pedro was there.
Pedro was good. Yeah, he's actually a serious actor.
Yes. He says that most actors get annoyed when they're only known for that first role, and where like Daniel Radcliffe is always going to be known as Harry Potter.
You're right.
And Pedro, no, that's not his name.
Do you know his real name?
Oh, no.
I don't know Napoleon's real name either.
No,
I do actually. It's John Heder.
John Heder.
Wow, I pulled that one out.
Oh, his name's Efren.
That's right.
His name's Efren. I don't know his last name.
I want to say Ramirez.
I don't. Could be. Efren. He said he didn't mind to being called Pedro or being known as Pedro, even to this day, 20 years later.
It was actually quite sweet about how Pedro's a character who leads with hope into the world. He really liked that. He liked representing that, so he was happy with that being kind of his legacy. It was a fun panel. It was fine.
It was fun too because
But we are 45 minutes of the episode, so let's get to
we might
Horror
have
Nights.
to do this a part 2.
Let's get to Horror Nights. Let's talk about the Horror Nights news, speculation, and rumors. There's not many of those left. At this point, we're down to announcements. It does annoy me that we are so close to the event. I mean, everyone has tickets at this point. Still not everything is announced. I don't feel like that's usual. I feel like usually by now. Last year they did this too, where they waited until the last minute to start announcing like all the scare zones.
Yeah.
But it feels like usually there's... I mean, we still haven't heard. We're expecting it to be the weekend. It's not confirmed yet. We're expecting the Terror Tramp to be Blumhouse. Not confirmed yet. We have no idea what the show's going to be in the Waterworld queue.
But it's not going to be most likely The Purge.
I think we had some good reasons about, especially with the assassination attempt. They're not going to go political this year. So we really don't know. We don't know everything yet, but we do know more than we knew last time.
Yes.
So let's just get through the scare zones. So I think we can knock those off quickly, and then we'll close going through the big Horror Nights presentation of Midsummer Scream and what we learned.
So the scare zones that were announced.
Let's close with Luchadors. Well, we'll save Luchadors, so that's kind of an extension of the maze.
Okay.
So let's close with that. Let's talk about the other three.
Well, you've already mentioned that one, but the other three was... My favorite was Murder of Crows.
Murder of Crows. So tell us about Murder of Crows. Elfar Crow.
You foolishly ventured into a massive crow's nest. Now the fearsome flock will defend its territory by descending upon you in a feathered rage and pecking your bones clean.
So he said something on Twitter about how this is going to serve as a home for all their crow characters over the years. I think that's kind of fun, doing the throwback and bringing back. Because if you remember, like in Scarecrows, there were some crows. So I wouldn't mind seeing some of those costumes regurgitated to add more scare zones. Because I think we've been talking about all year has been the death of the scare zone.
Yeah.
And we want more. And if you can do it on the cheap by just bringing back old costumes you used to use in mazes, I'm okay with that.
It was interesting because during the panel, he only showed a quick picture of what it was going to be and then quickly moved on.
Yes, it was cute. He was like, what does this say? Removed from deck. Oh no, next slide.
And then the next day, Murder of Crows!
Yeah, somehow, strangely announced the next day.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited for this one. It's at, what location is this?
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Actually, I know. It's in a new area. It's an area we've kind of had a scare zone before, between Harry Potter and the Simpsons land, in that upper area where they're constructing a roller coaster off to the left for Fast and the Furious. As you go through that little gauntlet, this will be a new area for a scare zone. So I'm excited for that. They actually added a new area for the scare zone.
Yeah, because before the only scare zone area was when you first entered the park
Right.
by the Universal stores, and then they kind of just got killed.
Right. There used to be that there was, as you made your way to the lower lot mazes, you had to go through tunnels, and then there was a gauntlet you went through to get there. So that added a lot to the scare zone vibe.
Yeah.
And as we've lost those backlit slots, they haven't really
reprised anything. They haven't.
Right, they haven't. So this, I think, is a good attempt at let's find somewhere where we can put another scare zone. It's a good area because it's kind of an empty area. I mean, if you're someone who doesn't like scare zones, this is a minus for you because this is kind of an important area to go through. Before, you could kind of ignore that entrance area until it was time to leave. This is going to be an area that you are going to have to walk through during the night. So if you don't like scare zones, sorry, but I like them, so I'm happy. I'm happy that they added a new one here. I think the crows is a good concept. It's something. I mean, if they have some fun animal heads, it'll be. I'm sure the Stiltwalker Giant Crow King is going to be really fun.
They had it last year at Horror Nights. They had the giant crow walker on stilts.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll come back.
But I think it was actually part of the Monstros house.
I think so. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting if they combine the crows from Latin American monsters into this.
Yeah. So the crows definitely got a thumbs up for me. I'm excited for that one.
I have a thumbs up wing.
It's a minor concern is that they're going to just spread out. They're not going to hire more scare actors. They'll just hire the same amount but spread them out more, which would be worse because it feels like it should be more concentrated than it is already. So I'm hoping that we see more scare actors in these zones, particularly as they're adding a fourth one.
I don't want them to go on the cheap. That's going to be a minus for me if they decide to go on the cheap.
Yeah, you got to spend, I guess, in the park. Although we're kind of special case because we're like super fans. So we're going to go every year regardless, but we're not going to like it. And we'll complain online.
And on their surveys.
All right, so what's the next one that we can talk about?
Skull Lords.
Skull Lords.
All hail the royal court of the undead, where Gothic kings and queens reign. Beware. Cross into the spectral kingdom at your own peril.
So this one's cool. I like this one as well. Not so much for the skeletons, which we've seen 100 times before. But I like this concept of the medieval theme, where you're going to... I mean, we really don't know what you're going to see, but I'm speculating you'll see maybe the skeleton jester, the skeleton king, the skeleton knight, the skeleton queen. I think there's a lot you can do with that concept of the royal court. And I'm hoping they bring that forward more than just skeletons and display cases.
Well, it's going to be a bit of zombies, so it's going to be something related with the undead. So
yeah, if you see like the zombie fight jester, and then you see the skeleton queen with the big trail. I guess you want to have a trail because people will step on it. And then you see maybe the jester's a stilt walker. You see a giant hulking zombie king. Then an evil knight. I mean, there's a lot of cool things you can do with that basic concept that we haven't seen before, or at least we haven't seen in a long time. So I'm hoping they have fun with this one.
I hope they have a dead knight that just kind of like walks around and try to scare you. But yeah, I'm excited to see how they make this work.
Now, they haven't precisely announced where this will be located. I think that the next one we'll talk about is Chainsaw Punch. That's going to be right in kind of Universal Plaza as you enter. And what they've been doing lately is they kind of have two scare zones that almost merge together right there where they're touching. So I think this one's going to be right after you walk in. You'll have that first scare zone. This will be right after that, kind of by the Waterworld show.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's where they're going to put it, yeah.
All right, so for the next one, like you mentioned, Chainsaw Punks. Get revved up for your night of terror as soon as you enter. Chainsaw-wielding punk rockers with masks and mohawks will close in on you.
Yeah, so if you're an opening ceremony guy, this is going to be the one where they rush at you at the start of the night. I don't know. It's fine. It's chainsaws.
That's what had died before. They didn't do the ceremony whenever...
Oh, yeah, they did. And they cut it last year.
They cut it last year.
Well, if they do it this year. I mean, usually if they have a chainsaw one, they'll do it. Hopefully they'll bring it back. It's fun. We never did it, though. We think we saw it once. I was like, eh.
No, last year they completely... I did both the RIP and the regular did not have the ceremony.
That's a shame.
Yeah. But let's see what I got.
But yeah, I mean, this one's fine. I mean, it's chainsaws, the punk designs. I mean, they're using a lot of punk imagery in their marketing this year for like the logos. So,
a lot of Z's where S's
yeah,
used
well,
to be.
that's every year. That's Marty's little joke at this point. I'm surprised the S in skull isn't a Z for Skull Lords.
Skull.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not like super hyped up for chainsaw. This is like a very generic one. compared to the other ones we're getting. But that's fine.
All right.
It's fine.
This is fine. All right. We're ending off with the one that was talked about a lot. Luchador Scare Zone.
Luchadors. So this one is going to be the one, right?
Wait. Let me get the synopsis.
Okay,
going.
give us a synopsis.
Ojo, you're about to get caught in the middle of a lucha libre horror film. 2 luchadores are going to the mat against a horde of masked monsters. There we go.
I'm glad we had that. That really added to the episode.
You're welcome.
So this is going to be the one where they've had this a few years. It used to be Universal Monsters, and now it is the Monsters of Latin America have been there, where you exit the scare zone. You exit the maze that's at the Universal Plaza maze. And then it's immediately into the scare zone. So it's really, I think of it more as a house extension than a proper scare zone. I think of it as a scare zone as you're going through, and you'll pass through it multiple times a night. This is when you only really pass through when you're leaving the house. You're already kind of in that mode. So it's scare zone-esque because it's open air, but meh.
They're probably going to have some kind of like ring in the middle. They might change the plaza that they have for the Day of the Dead into more of like maybe a luchador ring.
I don't think they'll go that far. I think you're expecting too much from them.
I
did like the characters they presented. There were a lot of characters in this one. I like that. Then there was good variety. It was fun. They have 2 original luchador wrestlers. I don't remember their names.
They were the classic monsters.
It was the classic monsters that have been reinterpreted as luchador villains. That was really fun.
Yeah.
And apparently this was a thing. They talked about this during the panel in, what was it, like the 60s in Mexico?
50s, 60s Mexican luchadors. It's based on that kind of theme.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the people who are designing the costumes are actual people that make luchador costumes in Mexico.
Mm-hmm. So it felt cool. And apparently these were movies that they used to make in the 50s and 60s where they would take a big luchador of the time and they would pit him against a classic monster. He would fight Dracula.
But not their Dracula.
It wasn't Universal Dracula. It was just a Dracula, legally distinct Dracula.
Yeah.
So it was fun that they found that kind of obscure. I didn't know about that.
Of course not.
So it was fun they found a little more obscure bit of horror trivia and they brought that out and they're going to realize that in a big way. That's really cool. And the designs were cool. It's the Universal Monsters, but not as you're used to seeing them. And there's even a creature from the Black Lagoon in here. So that's 2 thumbs up for that alone.
2 fins up.
Yes, 2 fins up. I'm happy he's anywhere. I haven't forgotten about him totally. We'll get to complain about the creature in a minute when we start going through the mazes.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting. Like you said, it's going to be tied to the Monstros house. So it's going to be quite a feat how they do this. It's going to be about 10 monsters or something like that.
There were a lot.
Yeah. The villains and the heroes. Because there's going to be heroes as well.
That was cool too. Because it's the heroic luchadors battling the evil monster luchadors.
Yeah. Which the monsters are the classic monsters.
Yeah. So, I don't think this would work as a house theme because it's a little too out there. But I think I might be more excited for this scare zone than for the actual Latin American house this year. Just because... maybe it's just because I saw the presentation hyped me up, but it's just such a unique concept.
Yeah. But it's also based on the fact that the classic monsters. You know what they kind of look like.
Yeah, we still don't know who the writer is, or the cowboy, whatever that guy's name was.
Oh. One thing that I'm excited for is just going from concept art to actually on the floor.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's it for scare zones.
Yes, that's the last scare zone.
Okay.
One thing we forgot to talk about when this experience was, how long did it take us to get inside?
Oh, yeah. We showed up an hour early to line up for the panel. So if you go to Midsummer Scream next year, this is good information for you. We showed up an hour, and we were, not early enough at all.
No, we were late.
Because we were in the general admission line, and the general admission line already had a large outdoor segment, and we were on the indoor segment. So we were pretty far back.
Okay, so
the line extended pretty far back from where we ended up, too.
One of the things that I was shocked, was that when we went to the Elvira panel, it was in the same room, and the line was all upstairs, and I thought, wow, it's pretty long. When we went to get in line for this again on Sunday, they're like, oh, you're here general admissions? go downstairs to the left. And I was like, go what? To the what?
Yeah, well, you would never line up like that before.
Yeah.
So we did get in, but it was standing room only, so we had to stand.
Yeah. All the chairs they told us there would be enough room for everyone. They just forgot to mention.
They straight up lied. There was even one guy who told us, oh yeah, there's still chairs. And then like the next guy we saw was like standing room only.
Yeah, it was like 2 seconds later.
They just lied to us.
Straight to our faces.
Yeah.
One of the biggest lies was like, okay, the line will start moving now. Did not start moving.
They told us like 5 times. They told us we were going to start moving. We never did.
One of the things that was really hilarious was they told us, look to the person to the front of you, look to the person in back of you.
Because the line snaked like 10 or 5. It snaked a lot when you were inside, and there was no divider, so it would have been very easy to cut. That's what they were worried about.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was excited for, not excited for, but I was glad about, was we were late just enough to have to be in the line that was inside.
Yeah, it got hot on the outside line, and I was in a sweater to be Freddy Krueger, so I did not want to be outside.
If you were early, you would have been outside.
Yeah, you would have sweltered, but then you would have been able to sit down. So
that is true.
It's a give and take.
Yeah. I sat down on the floor.
Keep that in mind if you're going next year.
I sat on the floor, and it was a big mistake.
Yes. At the presentation, he presented 2 houses that are coming this year. One of them we knew about. One of them hadn't been announced, but we kind of knew it was coming anyways. Yes. So let's go in the order that he went. So what was the first one?
The first one is the Leatherface house.
So Alvaro Crow was kind enough to actually rewatch this presentation. It was not a short presentation. So why don't you summarize your takeaways?
Murdy went into a lot of history. And by a lot, I mean a lot.
He did research for these guys.
He basically talked for about 30 to 45 minutes just in the history of what happened to this.
Yeah, this guy works. You understand why they let him keep his job when he moved to Ireland, because no one else would ever do this.
Yeah. He went into extreme detail on the history of slaughterhouses in America, the design, the zigzag design of the slaughterhouses, how animals, if they went in a straight line, they would stop. And then he joked, he's like, oh, we've been employing these tricks at horror houses already.
It's funny. It's true. He has.
Yeah, so it was like, you don't want to make them go straight, you want to go zigzag, so they don't know what's coming around the corner. And I was like, no. So
why on earth did we go to Halloween Horror Nights presentation and start hearing about the history of slaughterhouses?
Because of Leatherface's house. His family works at the slaughterhouse, the Sawyer slaughterhouse.
So this year's Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, I believe it's called the Legacy of Leatherface, it will take you into some classic scenes. That was left a little vague, but we know it will go to the Sawyer farmhouse.
No, the way
it will go to the cemetery, but the meat of the maze, pardon my pun, will be at the Sawyer slaughterhouse, which is an area we've never seen in. Definitely not in a maze. I don't know if it's been in any movies. I haven't seen all these movies.
No,
but it's definitely an original location.
The way Murdy presented it is that this is the Leatherface multiverse. So you're going to be seeing scenes from all the movies, and on top of that, original scenes, not really seen, more of a background history of the Sawyers. So that's going to be interesting concept.
It was funny. He talked about how when the IP holders came to them and said it's like the 50th, it's some anniversary this year.
Yeah, it was like the 50th.
It's a big anniversary for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and they said we want to do a maze, and we want to do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre multiverse. And I thought, so these are the same Hollywood executives who haven't caught on that everyone is sick of multiverse movies.
Exactly.
these are people still giving them to us. Okay, now I know. Except Deadpool pulled it off. Deadpool was good.
That was the ick.
Deadpool was the only one that was good. But anyways, so he's having the Leatherfaces from every Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie will be working in this slaughterhouse. And a lot of characters that we haven't seen from the movies will be in there as well. I was excited that they're going to have Chop Top from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is the only other one I've seen. I've seen the first one, I've seen part 2. Part 2 is a wild, weird movie. Don't know if it's good or not, but I definitely enjoyed it. And Chop Top is kind of the iconic new character they introduced in that one, so I was excited to see that he's going to be coming.
Yeah, they're also going to be having Leatherface wearing different masks to represent different jobs, because the way Murdy said is he has no unique personality. He wears the mask depending on the job he's doing at that moment. So when he's doing like domestic tasks, he would have like an old woman mask. When he was in a fancy event, quote unquote, he would have his fancy mask. And just like things of that nature. So depending on where in the Sawyer house part you're in, he's going to be having a different mask to present it. You're also going to be, the start of the house is going to be, you're going to be following a character. I believe it was the hitchhiker. In the first movie, he's going to be the one who walks you in.
No, it's Leatherface as a child with a pig head.
Is it?
And he comes out. You'll be hearing a narration from, maybe it's the hitchhiker, but the character outside the facade will be child Leatherface from one of these prequels that I haven't seen. And on the back is written "Follow" in blood on his overall. So he'll walk it, and you'll follow him into this Sawyer family slaughterhouse.
Yeah. One of the things he also mentioned that's going to be a big thing this year, smells.
Yeah, he really pointed out there's going to be a lot of smell-o-vision in this one. I don't know. This is going to be a gross house. I mean, that was clear.
Oh, yeah.
That there's going to be a lot of gore in this one, a lot of smell, a lot of gross. And they're not shying away from it. So if you're someone who's squeamish, but you're going to Horror Nights anyways, this might be a skip for you. I'm excited for it. This maze gets a thumbs up for me. It's a different take on Texas Chainsaw Massacre than we've seen before. I did rewatch some of the earlier mazes that they've done for Texas Chainsaw, and they follow a lot closer to the plot of the movies and the areas you see in the movies. So being able to expand out and doing a more original take on the IP, that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
I like that they're bringing in all the characters. That's really cool too. I mentioned Chop Top. I was going to see the cook. You're going to see Grandpa. You're going to see Nubbins, the hitchhiker. So they're all going to be there. And there's like a dozen Leatherfaces in this, and they're all different. So that's really fun. And they're even saved a few surprises because they said at the end you'll go into the Sawyer family house. He's like, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to squeeze in also some of the most iconic scenes from at least the first movie, if not the other ones as well, as part of the celebration of the franchise and kind of a celebration of the history of Texas Chainsaw at Horror Nights.
Yeah, and it's the 50th anniversary because the classic film came out in 1974, so it is the 50th.
It's the 50th years. And like we mentioned on our Top 20 review, when we reviewed this movie, this was interesting. It's not quite the first slasher, but it's in kind of this proto-slasher world. But these before Halloween movies, before Halloween kind of took them and really made what the slasher movie is. But without Texas Chainsaw, would Halloween be made? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, especially considering that this was done by college students for the most part.
Yeah, on the cheap.
On the very cheap.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see Grandpa and how the history of him. Because they're going to be a little bit about the history of the house and the family. One of the things that he mentioned was that when slaughterhouses were starting, people would buy postcards. So I'm wondering if they're going to have merch.
Oh, that would be cool.
The Sawyer Slaughterhouse postcards.
Well, they're definitely going to have the Leatherface family barbecue will be back. I feel like that's a lock.
That was delicious when it was here.
It was really good. But I don't know if I'm going to have the appetite after going through the slaughterhouse. I'm a little worried.
I wonder if when we enter it as RIP pass holders, we're going to see the amount of the crowds lessen and the amount of food at the Sawyer house increase.
I think they should give all the RIPs a rib on your way in.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Is there anything else from the presentation that stood out for you about this?
Just the amount of history that you did on it.
Yeah, I mean, this one got me excited. It is an IP we've seen a lot before in the past, but like I said, it is a new take. It's iconic characters. This one gets a thumbs up.
I guess 3 thumbs up, 2 from me, and 1 that I got.
One that you picked up on your way out of the slaughterhouse.
Exactly. I'm excited to see, especially just all the Leatherface masks. I'm excited to see how they bring it out.
Yeah,
it's going to be a noisy house with
a lot of chainsaws.
Yeah, and noisy, smelly, and probably dark. Oh, they're all dark.
Yeah. Until Leatherface jumps out and the strobe light starts going.
Yeah. So
that was the first house. We liked that one. Let's talk about the second one, which I don't think we liked quite as much.
So this is the Eternal Bloodlines house.
Universal Monsters, Eternal Bloodlines. So what's going on with the Universal Monsters this year? What's different?
It's going to be all female. and it's gonna be the reprising roles are the Daughters of Van Helsing, the Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula's daughter, Anaxunamu, which is the mummy, and the Brides of Dracula. So they're all gonna be in
and
this
the
house.
She-Wolf of London.
And the She-Wolf of London, correct.
Yes.
So it's gonna be a different take. The idea is it's a story where
It's very plot heavy.
When the way he described it, I was like, this is a movie, not a house.
Not a horror movie. It sounds like an action movie.
Yeah.
And not a good one.
I was very disappointed, not gonna lie, from this house. I was like, really? Like,
well, let's not preempt them too much.
Okay.
Tell the listening audience what's the plot, because this is a very plot heavy house.
Okay, so it's gonna be opening up with Saskia Van Helsing, the last descendant of the Van Helsing vampire hunter.
Right. It's an original character.
Yes.
They're very proud that they created an original character. We'll talk about her when we get to our impressions. So go on.
The scenes are gonna open that she's burying her brother, the last male descendant of the Van Helsings, and as she's doing this, she is being stalked by the Bride of Frankenstein, the Bride of Dracula, because
Dracula's daughter.
No, this is.
Oh, you're right. It's a bride.
It's a bride
sent by Dracula's daughter.
Sent by Dracula's daughter to take out Saskia. While she's
killed all the male descendants of Van Helsing are dead. Only Saskia is still alive.
Saskia is the last descendant. And as she is burying her brothers, being stalked by the Bride of Dracula, the Bride of Dracula is being stalked by, you guessed it, the Bride of Frankenstein. So, it's going to be interesting.
And then they team up.
Who teams up? The Bride of Frankenstein.
Saskia and the Bride of Frankenstein team up to go fight Dracula's daughter at her castle.
Dracula's brides.
No, I think the brides are gone at this point.
Oh, well, yeah.
But she has an alliance with the She-Wolf of London and Anaxunamun. So once they get to the castle, Saskia and the bride split up, and one of them fights the She-Wolf and one of them fights Anaxunamun. I don't remember which one goes which, and that's all the plot we got. And that was a lot of plot for a walk-through maze. That was my impression.
I was like,
I don't think that's all going to come across.
My first thought was, why? Why so much story?
There's a few things that just jump out at me just from the plot summary that I didn't love. Again, it doesn't sound scary. It sounds like an action movie. Yeah. Like a revenge action movie. And an action movie walkthrough doesn't sound as good. And it feels like we're going to be very much just walking through watching a movie happen. And I feel like the best mazes are the ones that incorporate you as part of the story that's being told. As if you remember last year's Universal Monsters house, the Paris one, there was a scene where you walk into this underground catacomb nightclub, and it's as if you're in the audience.
You are the audience.
You are the audience. Like, you are part of the story now. You're not just watching someone else's story. And this one feels like it's going to be very much just watching Saskia's and the bride's story. Which not every house pulls you in, so it's not like the worst thing ever, but it is definitely a minus, especially because they've done a great job in past Universal Monster houses of incorporating you into the story as not really so much a character, but you're there.
Yeah, it really draws you in and makes you forget what's around you. Not gonna lie, I'm not looking forward to this house.
No, I'm not either. The concept, I mean, it's. We've had this concept before. We did Bride of Frankenstein versus Dracula's Brides. I actually rewatched The Maze to kind of review it, and it seems like it's going to be very similar. So in that one, they're in Frankenstein's castle. I guess in this one, they're in Dracula's castle. That's going to be a little different, but it's going to be characters we've seen before. And that one, it has that same problem. You're just watching the bride's story, and a lot of the jump scares are the bride jumping out at you. But it's not that scary because she's kind of the protagonist. There were a few scenes in that one where she's kind of torturing Dracula's bride, so it does add a little more horror in that way. This one seems going to be very much more straightforward. She's just a good guy now, so not going to be that scary.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that Saskia, the monster hunter, is going to have to team up with a monster to take out other monsters.
And they've been pushing this bride character for a while. They seem to like the reinvention that they did for that Bride of Frankenstein Lives maze. She was a photo op last year, I think maybe the year before too. And the Sasuke character, not really visual. They were very proud of their design. I don't know why. That's kind of harsh. But it was a very generic, female action hero design. Didn't really, nothing jumped out about it. I was also very, very disappointed in the Inoxua Moon design that they did. Murdy showed, so she is a character from the original Mummy movie. Well, kind of. In the Mummy movie, she's kind of possessing a modern day woman in Cairo who's half Egyptian, and Ardet Bey, who is the mummy in that movie, realizes this is my lost love and I will restore Aksunamun into her body in full. Very complicated movie from the 30s there.
Yeah.
But they showed the design from the movie. And it's a design that sticks with me. It's very striking. It's very feminine, little revealing, but it really hits you. It's something that sticks with you. And so this was our inspiration, and now here's what we came up with. And it's the most generic, boring mummy design you've ever seen in your life. It looks like something out of Spirit Halloween.
Maybe
you can make this out of dirty toilet paper. It was not good. And it's like just because it's a smaller waist, so it's a woman. Like now, it's different. Like no, it's a very bad. And this was the part I was most excited about. I was most excited for the Inoxua Moon portion, and they really whiffed on that design.
Yeah, they seem to be just trying to draw in as many female characters from the monster movies as they can, and creating the new character of Saskia. So it's
the other new character is the She-Wolf of London, and that design I thought was better until I watched The Bride of Frankenstein Lives Maze again, and at the end they exit back into the scare zone. That was because this is the maze where you leave and it's immediate scare zone. And they have the She-Wolf of London in that scare zone in the same design. So it's not a new design at all. It is a better design where it is distinct from usual. It's a werewolf basically in a dress with long hair, but it is different. It's definitely a female werewolf, whereas the female mummy, you can kind of tell it's female, but nothing in the design is screaming that. So I like the She-Wolf more, but I feel like this environment is going to be this castle environment we've seen 100 times in Universal Monsters. It's going to be characters we've seen before, doing things we've seen before. Designs that are new are not great. It's just kind of a big whiff, especially after last year's was so different from what we've seen of the monsters before. It was so good.
Yeah.
And feels like we're going backwards, and it's very disappointing.
I guess at this rate, the best we can hope for is the execution is better than the concept art.
But I just don't know what execution is going to raise this concept. Because the thing that I thought, okay, so maybe if they go really big on the Egyptian stuff and on the She-Wolf of London stuff, so maybe you actually go to London or you go to Egypt, that could bring it up. But it's all going to be set in the castle. So at best, we'll get a treasure room with some Egyptian artifacts in it. And that's better. I mean, I hope we see that. I'll be disappointed if that's not there, like the bare minimum.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would have been so cool if we had actually gone to Egypt and you're actually in the mummy's tomb. Just do a whole Inoxua Moon maze. That would have been really cool. That could have been great. And they just, no, we have to reuse Bride of Frankenstein. Got to invent our new character that's super boring.
Which is why?
Why do that? And, I mean, just disappointing. This year's the 70th anniversary of the Creature of the Black Lagoon. He's never been featured in these mazes before. Why is it not the creature from the Black Lagoon maze? Will it ever be a creature from the Black Lagoon maze? I'm guessing not. They seem very opposed to doing it. Would have been totally new. Would have been super exciting. Instead, we get this, and it's just a big miss for me.
Well, let's see. Once we get to Universal next month, we'll be able to give you a better detail about this.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta really hope the scare actors can really elevate this one and turn a kind of ho-hum presence into at least an intense experience.
Yeah, a lot's going to be riding on them to make this execution great, because the concept so far has not been it for me.
Yeah. So when we have all of the mazes announced, we will put out our hype lists.
Yes.
But I expect this one will be near the bottom.
If not the bottom.
This one might be the very bottom.
Yeah.
Which is sad, because I usually love these Universal Monster mazes, but they just really phoned it in this year.
Yeah,
It seemed like they said, let's just do the all-female maze, and they chose the laziest way to do that. I think there were ways to do that would have been cool. Like I mentioned, if you go, okay, let's not make it Dracula's what you've seen before. Let's do a Inoxua Moon. That would have been really cool. Or let's go really big on the She-Wolf of London. Why not? It's a cool design.
Yeah.
Let's have a She-Wolf of London house. Okay, that's kind of wild. That's out there. Let's give it a try. Instead, it's let's just do the most basic retread.
Yeah, instead of focusing on one character, they just want to put all of them together into one house in a bit of a lazy way.
Mm-hmm.
Which just kind of, in a way, Universal seems to be getting complacent.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe we're getting this year.
Yeah.
Is they didn't go and get these big IPs. They got very safe, very easy to get IPs. The originals, some of them seem cool. Monsters is solid. Dead Exposure seems solid. I don't remember that. I mean, they're doing Blumhouse for the Terror Tram. Like, really? You couldn't pull back Hollywood Harry for that one?
They're doing A Quiet Place, which we've had our discussions about.
Fine. Everything. There's nothing in the lineup this year that's like, I have to see this. This is going to be so cool. There's just, There's a lot of
Yeah, so it's just to go over again. It's A Quiet Place, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, Insidious The Further, Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines, of course, this, Dead Exposure Death Valley, and Monsters 2.
And Leatherface.
And Leatherface, of
right.
course.
And Leatherface, I think, probably so far is the lead for me.
Yeah.
Weekend, I mean, the rumored one is still The Weekend, which has potential because I like the last one, but still, I would have rather seen something else. And it's also a repeat. So, I don't know. Maybe this is the year of Fright Fest Extreme for us.
This could be.
That would be an extreme reversal if we like that one more.
The extreme reversal at Universal?
Yeah. So that's where we stand going into the last few weeks before the event opens. It opens at the end of this month. I mean, there's not much time left for them to be announcing stuff.
Yeah, so we're going to have to keep up with Murdy at this rate.
Yep.
See if he's releasing anything.
I think at this point they're just going to dump it all at the very
They
end.
have to.
Yeah.
I think they have to. If not, I would be very mad if they dump it all the day before it opens.
I mean, at this point, I mean, the speculation list that's the last one that got put out was very strong. I think they've hit everything. Mm-hmm. So we're fairly confident that The Weekend and Blumhouse Terror Tram are also confirmed.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see when we see.
When we know, you'll know.
Yes. Well, you'll know a few days after because it's a hassle to get together and record these.
It's delayed.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else from the panel or anything else from Midsummer Scream to cover? Anything else in the news?
I think that's it for the most part. I don't have anything on my end. Just it was enjoyable.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend.
It was a fun weekend. If you definitely want to buy stuff, take a lot of money.
Yeah, I would encourage you to come in costume too. We showed up just with costumes we thought we'd just wear them in the costume. We ended up wearing them. Yeah. I wore part of mine all day on Saturday and then all day Sunday.
Yeah, I didn't wear mine on Saturday because I thought it was only for the costume party at night, so I left it in my car. Big mistake. Everyone was dressed up.
There's more people in costume than not.
Yeah.
So, embrace that, and it's a fun event for sure.
One thing that was surprising, I don't know, for me is the amount of children there.
Okay, this is something we could talk about in the last 5 minutes of the podcast as well, because I thought we were a little over time, so I was going to skip it. But speaking about children at these things, there were like babies.
Yeah.
And it's like there were not baby appropriate things going on. Nothing was like highly sexual, but like there was a lot of like gore.
It was too
spooky for babies.
Yeah.
So at the end of the Horror Nights panel, and this really irked me. So Murdy, every year he gives away 2 free tickets. Usually he has a trivia question, calls them in the audience. They get it right. They get 2 free, front of the line tickets, and he takes them on a guided tour. This year, he decided to do something different. He said, this event is all about the home haunts, so we want to give to someone who does a home haunt. So raise your hand if you do a home haunt. And this is someone who they set up just in their garage or in their basement, a little walkthrough for their neighborhood. That's cool. I like that he's supporting that.
Yeah.
I don't do a full haunt, but I go back to my parents because they have a nice front yard, and I set up I don't make it too scary. I make it a little spooky for the kids. It's a really fun Wild West walkthrough, and have my own tombstones that I have little Disney Haunted Mansion-esque rhymes on, and it's fun. It's fun. So I'm glad he's supporting that community. And then he's, okay, so now keep your hand up if, your inspiration is making it fun for your kid.
Yeah.
I'm into that too, because when I do it so kids can have fun. I keep that in mind. Well, it's not my kid. I don't have a kid. But I want the neighborhood kids to be able to come in and enjoy what I've created. That's why I make it spooky, not scary.
Yeah.
So I'm still on board. until he says something along the lines of, now, if your kid is here, now...
Keep your hand up.
Right, and now there's only one person left. Because who brings their kids to these things?
Yeah.
These are not appropriate events for children. We just sat through a big lecture about 19th century slaughterhouses in vivid detail. And this kid comes up, who's like 8 years old, tops.
Yeah. Under 10.
He's
Definitely
very
under 10.
young, and now he's going to go to horror nights and get the behind the scenes. So I'm not miffed the kid gets... I wasn't going to win that anyways. But it feels like it's a symptom of a larger issue at horror nights, which is that it's starting to become more and more of a family event.
Which I don't want.
I don't want that. I mean, they've already torn all the sex out of it. It used to be not a lot, but it was a little raunchy. They had dancers at the front who were they weren't like naked, but they were in,
raunchy.
They were raunchy. And there were just raunchy elements in the mazes. Some of the designs were a little raunchier.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's
the weekend maze, too.
That's always been a big part of horror movies, going all the way back to even Texas Chainsaw we just talked about, even Black Christmas.
Because what it's mainly is for adults.
Right. And it's kind of the interplay of Thanos and Eros, if we want to get really Greek about it. Just those strong emotions and the interplay between them. That's always been a big part of horror movies. And they've torn all that out of Horror Nights. That's all gone. And they did this new Eternal Bloodlines house. It's all female monsters. The designs have zero raunchiness in them. They're very conservative designs for these monsters. They're very covered up. Which, I mean, is fine. But it would be more fun if you could have some fun with these. And it does feel like, and this is an interesting point, they haven't toned down the gore. The gore is still there.
Yeah.
It feels like the violence is less.
It's
Do you feel that?
Yeah, I definitely...
You don't see the violence happening the way you used to.
In general, the past few horror nights, I definitely saw an uptake in children.
You're seeing a lot more kids, and like young kids.
Yeah, like under 10, and I was like...
I really don't like it.
Why are they here?
I would never bring a child to these events. Even though they've toned it down. I think they're toning it down because they want more kids.
Which is why they added... the Minion Zone and all those...
Yeah, they want kids during the day. I get that. Like, Nintendo World is mostly for kids. Minions Land is for kids. That's fine. Yeah. It's a theme park. It should be for families. During the day, absolutely. Yeah. 100% for families. At night, when it becomes horror nights, this should be 18 plus only.
Or at least 16?
I mean, if you're a late teenager, fine. I mean, you're obnoxious. I don't really want to be around you, but like you're old enough to experience it. That's okay. But they're catering more and more to the family and the young set at the event. I really don't like it. It leaves a very bad taste in my mouth. And it makes the event worse because it's awkward if I'm going through a really intense house. And also, I feel like they've toned down the intensity because more kids are coming.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why there's fewer scare zones and why the scares in the houses are being toned down.
Yeah, because I remember the scare zones, the actors would chase you.
They used to be a lot more aggressive. A lot more aggressive.
I loved it because I had a scary cat friend, and they kept following her. They followed her to a store. There was no safe space.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And and part of it might just be staffing. It might be they can't get the characters they used to be able to get because they're not paying the wages, or they're spreading the budget in other places.
Yeah.
That's possible. It's possible there's just one executive who's like, I got a stick in my butt and no sex at the event. No, I don't like it. That's possible, but I do think a big part of it is just they want the kids. And I'm very opposed to it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the staffing and the wages, that's why they had the people protesting.
Last time we went to Universal for our review of the daytime, there was a huge protest outside by the staff.
So they need...
I mean, they have the Disney event in Anaheim is very kid friendly. There's no scare. It's all
spooky.
Very kid friendly. And it's very hard to get that ticket, by the way. Yeah. So I guess you can't actually bring your kid to it unless you're very rich to buy them from a second party.
Yeah.
But that's the event for kids. Let Horror Nights be for adults.
It's very Halloween Town for any of you who have seen those movies. I know Undead Ed has not.
I saw them when I was very young. I don't remember them. There was no strong impression.
The children don't...
They don't belong at Horror Nights. Don't bring them.
Please don't. Yeah, but that's...
But, I mean, we're not in charge, and that's the way they're going. And I don't know. It feels like we're really piling on horror nights, but we're not happy about it this year.
Maybe
we wanted more.
Maybe we should be in charge.
We should. We would do better. We'll have our own haunt.
Exactly.
The Halloween horror haunt.
Yes. All right.
Hollywood horror nerd haunt. We have too many H's in the name. All right. This is a 90-minute episode. We got to wrap up. Any last thoughts?
Stay scared out there.
Thank you for listening to this production of the Hollywood Horror Nerds. We know you have many options for your listening entertainment, and we're glad you chose us. Find us on Instagram at Hollywood Horror Nerds, on X at HW Horror Nerds, and on YouTube at Hollywood Horror Nerds. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite alternative podcast site to ensure you don't miss next month's episode. And until then, stay scared out there.